Men are the prize, the podcast. Harvey, your host here. How are you doing, men? How are you doing? I hope you're having a great day. First of all, happy Father's Day. I hope you are going to be treated wonderfully today. I hope the family either left you alone so you could chill, or they taking you out somewhere so you could have some fun with your crew, with the kids, whether it's with mom or not. I hope you are being treated like the father, the wonderful man that you are, because we deserve it. We definitely do. I hope life has been treating you well. And let's just get to it. You know, I love talking to men. This is what this podcast is for. This is a space for men to open up, and you get me a black man to talk to, I'm good. You can see the shirt. You see the shirt, hit the website, pick up some merch, rock the shirt. But this week, I was lucky to be on this man's podcast. So of course, we had to get back together. I bring to you Earnest James. How you doing today, sir?
I am great. I am great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Thank you for coming. I love a good bio. I print them out. Get ready. Take a breath. Here we go. Earnest James is a family man, father, and friend with a heart for people. As a minister, mentor, podcaster, and speaker, Earnest has dedicated his life to inspiring and uplifting others. His mission is to help others deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problems, heal from your pain, fulfill your purpose. He spreads a message of hope and healing wherever he goes. He believes that we must heal ourselves. When we heal ourselves, we heal our families. Our families heal our communities heal our world. Ernest was raised in a two-parent household, but recognized the effects of fatherlessness on his extended family and friends who were being raised by single mothers. Ernest is determined to heal families by helping fatherless mothers and daughters heal from their father wound with his Friend to Fatherless Daughters campaign, and mentoring dads and sons with his M.A.N, which stands for Men Activating Newly Untapped Potential Male Mentoring Program. Ernest also is an advocate for education. After a few failures early in life, Ernest quickly rebounded to complete grammar school, finish high school in 3 years, and become a college graduate. Ernest is now an entrepreneur, business owner, minister, and speaker. He believes if you must fail, fail fast and fail first. That way you can rebound and rebuild your life, then help others do the same. Ernest is an author, social media influencer, online course creator, and workshop instructor. Ernest has been a guest speaker on several podcasts, as well as hosting his own podcast, Deal to Heal with E. James Podcast. Ernest plans on sharing his message with as many people as will listen. It's a good bio, brother. You've done
Yeah,
much. You've
it
done
seems
much.
long when you listen to it.
Does it?
When I wrote it, it didn't seem that long.
So my first,
probably because you're talking about me, so it's like,
right
okay.
there,
If
exactly.
I was talking about somebody else, I'd be like, oh, okay, good to know.
And I ask this always because for men, we typically don't get our flowers all the time. So my first question to you is, what is it like hearing your accolades read back to you?
You know, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? One of the things actually, see, I'm about to start talking already. One of the things that I do, right? I have a business group of a small handful of entrepreneurs that I'm over, right? And so we go over things and we talk about different things. And so one of the things that we did this year was last year we did what do they call vision boards? Well, we did it this year too, but last year we did vision boards, right? And so when we did our vision boards this year, you know, one of the things that hit me was I went back and I looked at my vision board from last year, and I had maybe about 10 things on it, and out of the 10, I had accomplished like 7. Okay. And so, but the crazy part was I didn't even know I accomplished them, because I never stopped to actually take inventory on how far I came, right? And so when I did that, I had to go back to the group and like, look, I know we just did this, you know, vision board party, but let's stop, let's go back and let's have a more like a accountability party, should I say? You know, let's go back and look at what we actually achieved, because I think that as we're doing stuff in life, a lot of times we don't go back and look. And so we're always looking at the next thing, like I don't do this, or I got to do this, or I need this, but we don't take the time to look at what we have accomplished, what we have done, and then just to be grateful for how far you've came. Yeah, we always got more to do, right? We always, especially as fathers and husbands and men, it's always something to do. It's always the next thing. But I think we have to take time to actually sit and look at what we have done, what we have accomplished, appreciate ourselves for the work that we put in, that we've done, and so back to your original question, is nice to hear. Like I said, it's kind of, I don't know, feels kind of funny because I'm listening to the whole thing about me. But definitely when I think about what I've wanted to do, what I've accomplished, you know what I mean? Especially like with my vision board, because I was really starting from like zero. And so to go from zero and have 10 things and accomplish over half of them, I think that's a amazing accomplishment for anybody, not just saying it because of me. But and still working on things, but I think we all need to take time sometime and look at what we've done and what we've accomplished, and just, if nobody else do it, just pat yourself on the back every now and then, not pridefully, but just, appreciative of the work that you put in to achieve, whatever goals that you're trying to get to.
Oh, true. That's one of the reasons that I read the bio. And if you do podcasts, and I've done other people's podcasts, and sometimes they'll read it separately. And I've done that on other podcasts where we'll read the bio and then just go into the interview. But for me, since I speak to men, one of the things I want to do is I want to hear your thoughts right then and there. Like, this is your bio. This is you. I'm pointing out all the stuff that you've done. You did this. I went to this school. I've got these letters after my name. I've done this in life. What do you think? When was the last time somebody just was like, wow, you've done this? When was the last time you got complimented? It's a rarity for us men.
Yeah.
So I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with hearing the fruits of your labor, what you've done, your successes. So that's why I read it, and I'm glad that we're able to talk about that. If you are a listener or watcher of this podcast, I do this a certain way. I have the word P.R.I.Z.E. It's the heart of this podcast. 4 of the letters represent characteristics that make a good man. Because this episode it's on Father's Day, it's when it's released, I'm going to do something different. These words, we are going to tailor them to fatherhood. And we're going to talk about that. So the first letter in the word P.R.I.Z.E., the letter is P, and the word is purpose. Purpose is defined as reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. So, Ernest, as a father, what is your purpose?
As a father, I believe my purpose is to be an example, first to my children, then be a leader to my children, and also to, to be a guide, right? Did I say guide first? I think I already said guide. I don't know. I forgot what I said. To be no, I didn't. Example, to be an example, to be a leader, and to be a guide, right? First of all, to be an example, because our children look at what we do, what we say, what we do. A lot of times they say, do as I say, not as I do, and all of that. But you have to be, the thing that you're trying to get your children to be, because that's what they're going to follow first, right? They're going to follow your example. And so my example of being a good person, first of all, because I have one biological child, which is my daughter. Then I have 4 stepsons. I just only say stepsons because the difference between my biological, but they're my sons. And my daughter is the youngest of the 5. So my first thing is to be an example of a good person, whether male or female, for all of my children. To be an example of a loving person, a caring person that looks out for other people and not just, for myself, that looks out for my family. So being that example of what it is to be a good person and a hardworking person, and those qualities. Then to be a leader. So now, first of all, I'm the example, but then now I'm going to lead you by my example to this is what I want you to become. I want you to be this type of person. And then when I get to the point where they are now, definitely before, but when I get to that point where they are now, my daughter's the youngest. She just made 20, and so all of them was like between 25 and 20, my kids. So now is the guidance part of it. So as a father now, I've already showed you the example. I've already led you. Now I'm allowing you to go ahead, but I'm gonna guide you from behind, sort of like a backseat driver. You're gonna lead, but I'm watching. Like you might want to slow down for that stop sign right there.
Right.
So that's kind of my purpose as a father, the way I see it.
Okay. How long did it take you to realize what your purpose was as the father?
You know what? I matured early in my life. Um, as the buyer said, I was raised in a two-parent household with my mom and my dad. It's 9 of us all together as far as siblings. And so I had the advantage of having both parents there, full time. And I also had the example of my father. Number one, of a healthy marriage, first of all, of two people sticking through good times and bad times, right? And so I don't tell my story a lot, but as far as growing up, when I was at my youngest, um, probably like 7 or 8 that I kind of remember. My dad was working for the phone company. My mom did not work, but my dad worked at the phone company. He had a good job. We had the big house, 2-car garage. We had a camper. We went, took vacations and stuff in the summertime. Like the whole picket fence, the whole American dream situation.
Okay.
Something happened. Was young when it happened, so I don't know what that transition was, where we lost everything, and so we went from having everything our own to a husband and wife and their 9 kids sleeping in one bedroom at my grandmother's house. So that's a big drop. You know
Right.
what I mean? From
Understood.
living high, should I
Mhm.
say, that nice middle class lifestyle, to now your whole family is sleeping in one bedroom at your mom's house. But it was watch having that example of my mom and my dad, work together for through the years to bring the family back up where we end up eventually buying another house, and from there. But it was a long journey, to get there, but they stuck out together. So I had that example of a good healthy marriage, a good healthy relationship with a man and a woman who loved each other and stuck by each other through the ups and downs. Then I had that direct example of my dad, and I always say that's why I'm so hard on fathers who walk away, because my dad could have easily walked away. It was 9 of us. You know what I mean? It
Right.
was 9 of us. He could have easily be like, you know what, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't. And he stayed. He was a father. He worked hard, and he helped, him and my mom eventually, like I said, got us back on track, to get our another home and kind of rebuild. But it was a long journey. But my dad was there, and he was that example to me, even up until, when my mom passed away. He's still here. He's still taking care of us, looking out for us, call every now and then, like, hey, what's going on, how you doing, and so because I had that foundation, such a powerful foundation, I grew up more, or should I say, I matured more quicker than some of my other family members, even some of my family and friends. And so it's like I kind of figured out my purpose early. You know what I mean? It's like I was young and I already was like, all right, this is the way I'm going. You know, how I did it, I don't know, but I just had that mindset and I just got it early. But I believe it came from, my mom and dad, just that investment and that example of watching them, progress.
Okay. I hear you. Now you mentioned your purpose with being the father, and you have sons and you have daughters. Are there different purposes for raising a girl versus raising a boy, specifically when it comes to each sex, at least for you?
I don't think there's a difference in purpose. But I do think there's a difference in protection and protecting that purpose. You know what I mean? And it just is what it is. With our boys, we're a little more lenient, you know, than we are with
Right.
our girls. With our girls, is more of, and I think because the girls can have the worst of the consequences from their experiences, should I say. You know what I mean? Like if
Right.
something was happening, a boy one of my sons get someone expecting, you know, they don't usually have the child with them. You know what I mean? Like the child's usually with the mother, you
Right.
know. So if they're not married, then you know he can kind of still do whatever it is that he's doing, but then the young lady is stuck with the child or with, you know, raising the child, especially if the father is not in, you know.
Right.
I think that's the only difference for me. It's the difference in protection. So I have to protect my daughter a little more, at least from my vision. You know, it's like, all right, I'm watching you a little closer, you know.
Understood. I hear you. I've got four, but I got three girls and a son. So I do my best to treat them all the same across the board. Nobody's perfect. There's something different about your little girl, than
Mhm.
opposed to, so you know, we do what we can. But I think rules and regulations and expectations, stuff like that, they're all going to get. But there's a different
Yeah,
emotional connection when it comes to your girl being a girl dad versus being a boy dad. You know,
yeah.
different things. Um, the next letter in the word prize is R. The word is resilience, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. So there's a different question. Can you think of a situation where you probably weren't the best father for any of your kids at any point? You were in a situation that you're supposed to be the dad, and maybe you didn't handle it the best. If you can think about a situation, how did you handle it? And did you talk about it? Did you communicate it with your children when it happened or afterwards?
You know what? So the one thing that comes to mind, so my sons, their mother and I got divorced. We were married probably 10 years, something like that. And so the youngest son kind of, because of his age and as we were going through that whole process, you know, and of course a divorce is not a 1 week thing. Like it's a process. It kind of
Yeah.
goes along, you know, with the emotions of it and whatever, you know. Even though me and my wife, we're still very good friends. We still communicate. We still even hang out every now and then, you
Yeah.
know. So it was not fighting or anything like that, but it just was the emotional um, space that we were in during that time. So after divorce and everything was over, my youngest son, we are having a conversation, and he was actually having a conversation with his mom, and she asked him something. I don't remember what it was that she asked him that he didn't know how to do. And she was like, "Why don't you know how to do that?" Because, you know, I know she knows that I taught him how to do it. And he was like, "No, he didn't teach me how to do it," you know, whatever situation was. And so what I got from that, when I ended up talking to him, and I had to apologize to him because as he was growing older, the three older boys, I spent time with them. I spent more time with them because they were a little older. By him being so young and getting caught up in that emotional part of our marriage, the my attention wasn't on him. So I didn't give him the same attention as I gave the other boys. You know, I didn't give him the same fathering as I gave the other boys. You know what I mean? Because we were in that weird space. You know what I'm saying? And so when he said that, that brought that to my attention. Like, man, I didn't do a, I didn't do as good as a job as, even just compared to the older boys. You know, I didn't give him as much time and attention as I should have because of where we were, you know. And again, I had to apologize to him for that. Because that definitely, I always want to definitely be a good father, you know, but I just was in an emotional space, you know, with the divorce and the things that we were going through, that, you know, I slacked in that time period. So
Okay, I hear you. It brings to mind something that every parent will deal with. We grow up and we have families and we want to be the best parent that we can be. But we're human, and
mhm.
at some point we're gonna slack, like you said. We're gonna fail at certain things. We aren't gonna be the best all the time. So you heard the situation, you kind of talked about it. Obviously, you made a point to apologize to your son. You recognize how he was dealt with in that situation. How did you take that? How was that? How did you feel about that when you kind of came to realization? I didn't give him my all in that situation. Where were you when that kind of came to mind? How'd you deal with it?
Well, I was kind of hurt, right? Because again, my whole purpose, my whole upbringing, and everything, and the person who I am was built on the foundation of my family, which was my mom and dad. And so that's all have always been something that I strived for and took pride in, is being a good father, you know, to be able to have that, you know, having that example with my father, and then to present myself in the same way, or try to be as good as father as he was. And so to realize that I was I kind of felt short of that, and it wasn't no fault to my son. You know what I mean? It was like I had to take all the blame for that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, man, I didn't like that. You know, I didn't like that. Um Again, because that's something I've always strived to be a good father. And then, you know, it's something I take pride in,
Right.
to being a good father. So just, you know, from the outside looking in, from any other person, you know, they're like, oh, you did a great job, you know, whatever. But um, you know, again, that was kind of an intimate conversation, but just having that conversation to be like, man, I didn't do as good as I would like to have done, you know.
I hear that. And it's a conversation that what's, I think it's not the most fun thing to hear, obviously, and to
Right.
recognize that. But the best part of that is the recognition of it. It is okay to mess up, to not be the best parent. But the most important thing is that you reconciled that. Listen, I didn't treat you right. I didn't do the best I could. That's not what my father would have done, or whatever. But you learn from that situation.
Yeah.
For me, and I'm still, and this is a continuous journey for me at best, I am continually trying to be a better father, better man every day. And with my kids, when I am not the best father, I think the best thing I can do is relay that to my kids.
Yeah.
I'm a stay-at-home dad, so they see me most of the time. So when I don't do something right, I yell at somebody because they didn't deserve it, or something happened. If I'm like, listen, I'm sorry, such and such, I shouldn't have said that. Wasn't your fault. You didn't deserve that, that kind of thing. If nothing else, kids seeing that their parents are fallible, that their parents are human, just like anybody else, is a lesson that everybody needs to learn, because that
Mhm.
allows them to be human too. It allows them to
Yeah.
mess up and know daddy messed up, mommy messed up, I'm gonna mess up, and it's okay. So I take those, that's what I get out of it. Those are the lessons I kind of take for myself. I messed up, but I'm going to go to my kid like, I shouldn't have done that. I said what I said. I apologize. I was wrong. It's particular words. I was wrong. You were right. Stuff that they need to hear.
Yeah.
And I have these moments where I'm like, I think I'm doing right, but I didn't. And then I do my best to relay it. And like they hear it and it's okay. That isn't perfect. That's all right. We keep it moving. And so I hear you, and I can see, even and when you're a parent, you can tell, because even when you were talking about it, there was a different tone when you were talking about it, because you're a little bit more like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
And you go back and think, and I think that's important. We go back, contemplate. as a reminder of being a human being. I'm a father, but I messed up, and it's okay.
And I think that's big for us, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. As far as to be able to apologize to our children, right, for some of the things that we did, even if we had the best intentions. You know what, that didn't come out right. You know, things didn't work out right. I'm sorry for that. You know, to be able to apologize for our children, I think that's a monumental thing, and I'm not sure what it does for them or to them, but I know it does something. You know what I mean? And I know that just the example of it, to be able to admit when you're wrong, especially, and maybe that's what it is, especially when you're in a position where you don't necessarily have to, right? You don't necessarily have to say anything, because you could just say, well, I'm the parent and that's that, you know, and then how does that reflect into the real world? You know, when your children are treated wrong by a boss or something, you know, and it's like, well, I just got to accept it because they're in a position of power and that's how they treat, you know what I mean? So I think that when we, as the first authorities in our children's life, can, you know, definitely be like, I love you, but when we mess up, can also come back and say, I'm sorry, that wasn't right. You know, I shouldn't have done that. Then that gives them that balance. And when they go out into the world and they're faced with a person who, you know, may be a authority in whatever, the workplace, the school place, or whatever, but maybe misusing that authority, then they can feel comfortable saying, hold up, you know, not disrespectfully, but you know what I mean? Like you're not coming off the right way, or you're not treating me the right way. You know what I'm saying? And I think maybe that's the thing that comes out of it. But I know there's something in it for us as parents and for our children to be able to say, I'm sorry, I messed up. Again, maybe it's just what you said also, is just to showing that we're human too, you know. But maybe it's both. I don't know.
What I think, and I've heard the word integrity defined as, you know, the way you act when nobody's looking. So for me, I feel like in a situation where I could just lean on the fact that I'm the adult, and I could just be like, because I told you to, or because I did. But in a situation like that where I tell the kid, and I don't have to, and I still, yeah, I messed that up. I'm sorry. I didn't have to tell you. And that, I think, shows a lot, because as we know, children are sponges. They remember, especially when they're baby. They remember everything you said, what you did, how you acted towards mom, how you talked to her, all these things. So in moments when I go above and beyond, that's what they'll take from it. Integrity, I think, is a wonderful thing. And if I can have integrity as a parent, integrity as a father, I think you just inject it into your kids. They do it, they don't even know. They're a better person, because I think in a lot of ways, our kids are agents. I said that all the time. My kids are my agent into the world. I'm sending out mini me's to the world. So when people meet my kids, when people meet my son and he opens the door for a woman, oh, he has a good father who taught him right. When my son goes out into the world and conflict arises and he knows how to deal with conflict, when he knows how to deal with people, when he knows how to deal with situations, people are like, he came from a home where there was somebody there who showed him the way. So there's so much in how we act, things that aren't even really said, but are just kind of done. And that's what I think kids get from us. I skipped the next letter in the word prize, but we'll come back to it. The next letter in the word prize is Z. The word is zeal. Zeal is defined as enthusiastic devotion. Something that you absolutely love. When I ask this question, it's typically for men, because men don't typically do something that's just for them. So what I mean is that as men, as fathers, as husbands, we're raised to provide, to take care, to do whatever. But typically on that list, we're not on it. We don't take care of us. We take care of our wife or our partner or our kids or our friends or our best whomever, but we never specifically do something for us. So this is the one part of this where I won't specifically go in terms of father. but it works in terms of being a father. What do you do for you that's not work, that has nothing to do with your family, your kids, significant other? What do you do for you, Ernest, for you to stay sane, for you to be the man that you are so you can be a better father to your kids?
You know what? I haven't done it in a while. And I was thinking about this the other day. So it's two things. A lot of times what I'd like to do, just for me personally, I like to go bowling, right? And sometimes I'll invite people, and sometimes I'll go by myself. Most of the time I'm by myself. I'll go by myself, I'll put my earphones on, and I'll go bowling by myself and play a couple games, by myself. And then the other thing that I do, I like to take long rides, right? So like I said, I'm in Chicago area, so I will get on the expressway and just ride all the way down. Downtown is probably about 45 minutes from me, so I'll get on the expressway and not even really speed, just cruise, just cruise all the way downtown into downtown Chicago. And depending on when, the time of day, if I hit it just right, like when the sun goes down and the lights come on and the skyline, you know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful sight, and especially if it's a nice breeze, it's always a nice breeze, usually coming off the lake. Yeah,
Okay.
so you just take that ride. There's some nice music and just relax, take that ride. Like I said, I haven't done either of those in a little while. Specifically, especially with the ride, is we're in Chicago, so we're just coming out of winter. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So in the
Okay.
winter times, ain't no cruising. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying?
Understood. Understood.
But
Understood.
I haven't been. I've been bowling maybe like one or two times, and I haven't been bowling lately, so that's something I have to do for myself too. And I just thought about that the other day too. It's like, you know what, I haven't done anything for myself. It's just besides working, that's all.
I
And
hear
like you
you.
said, that's for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think there's an important distinction, is to do something for yourself. And the more I talk to men, I think the hardest part is not just doing something for yourself, but sometimes you have to do something for yourself, and might be might be something that negatively affects somebody else. And the example I give is, I can be, I'm a father, I've got a wife and I've got kids, and I've had a hard week and I'm working. And right now, I'm just like on the edge, about to lose my mind. I need to go. I'll just use the fact that I'm just saying, I need to go bowling. I need to go do something. Now, I got 4 kids screaming, upset, want dinner. Mom is probably worked and is tired and would like to do the same thing. And those are the moments where we're like, you know what? I'm not going to do it right now. But if you think about how you were feeling, you have to go.
Yeah,
And you'd be like, listen, babe, I know it's crazy. I know it's hectic right now, but just for my mental health, I need like 2 hours to just get up away from this. And when I come back, you can do it. And I think we don't think that
yeah,
sometimes our mental health requires us to go even when it's not convenient. But
yeah.
taking care of yourself is convenient.
Yeah, and I always say that self-care is not selfish, right? It's
Exactly.
selfless.
Exactly.
Because if you don't
Exactly.
take care of if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of nobody else. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Mhm.
And even though we're talking about fathers, I have a sister, and my sister have I want to say 14 kids. Um,
14?
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So um so even when her kids, like the youngest ones, is a little older, um but it's like it's always something going on, right? It's
Mhm.
always something going on.
Right.
And her husband works, so she's usually the one at home all the time, and so she has to deal with everything, and even with us talking to her, like, okay, I understand is one after another, is this, is that, or whatever, but at some point you got to get away. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I'm like,
Mhm.
it's always going to be something else.
Yep.
And I'm like, the older kids is like 20s going on 30s now, whatever needs to be happening in the house, they can take care of it. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be able to take a day, a week, whatever. Probably not a week, because she ain't gonna take a week, but at least a weekend. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you can just come to my house. Ain't nobody at my house. You know what I'm saying? You come stay at my house. I'll go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So just so you have that time to yourself, that peace and quiet. Like, don't even answer the phone. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, especially as parents, when it comes to our kids, we've always feel like we gotta be there. We gotta be there, gotta be there, gotta be there. And then, like you said, sometimes to our own detriment, you know, as well as theirs. Because, like I said, if we can't take care of ourselves, you know, you overwork yourself, you get stressed out, you know, you have some kind of medical reaction to the stress or something like that, you know, then what? You know, you get something happens to you, you get put in the hospital. They still got to maintain while you're gone. You know what I'm saying? So either you're going to maintain while I'm going somewhere I want to be, you know what I'm saying? Or you're going to work yourself crazy until you end up in the hospital or something where you don't want to be, and they still have to maintain without you. You know, so you might as well take that time, go on a what they call a staycation, which you ain't going just, you know, somewhere near. Go on a staycation, take that time for yourself, you know, revive, rejuvenate, you know, rest. So then when you come back, now you could give them, you know, healthy attention. Because another thing that happens is, even if you're giving them all the attention that they need, eventually you're going to start resenting. You're going to start resenting your kids. You'll start resenting your husband or wife. You'll start resenting the job, because you'll start thinking everybody is getting all of me except me. You know what I'm saying? And then now you're unhappy with you because you're giving yourself away, but then you're unhappy with everybody else because they take it. You know what I'm saying? So at some point, you got to be like, you know what? For me and us, I'm getting out of here.
I hear you. Well said. Well said. And it's true. And it's for every parent. And obviously, as men here, we can speak to it as fathers. But every parent at some point needs to get away from the situation, some space for whatever it is. Walk, yoga, Pilates, go ball, go bowling, something, you know, hiking. Sometimes our kids can be problematic. We need to get up away from them sometimes. And I love my kids, but sometimes I'm gonna need to step away from you. So recognizing the time before you blow up, before you explode, before you do something you shouldn't, it's important to just step away so that you can stay sane. The last letter in the word prize is E, and the word is expectation. Expectation is defined as a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. When your kids leave home, and we never stop raising our kids, so I won't say that. But when your kids leave and maybe they head out into the world for themselves, what do you expect your kids to leave the house with? What did you give them? What tools did you give your kids to use when they step out and they go out and try to live their own lives?
Ooh, so one of the main things that I've tried to give them is strong decision-making tools. You know, one of the first ones is facts over feelings. You know, we can't react off our feelings, especially as men. You know, so with my boys, I was real big on that with them. Like, it's facts over feelings. We have to deal with the facts, because the facts don't change. Our feelings will change, you know, and that's something that I definitely teach my daughter, because women just are more emotional than men. But when a man have unbalanced emotions, and I think that's a big problem that we have with the generation of our young boys, is that they don't have the emotional temperance, you know, and so they don't know how to act out of facts and not emotion. And so when anything happens, they're quick to react out of emotion. You get someone step on your shoe and now you're upset about it. And then you're ready to fight, or you say something, or, just the reactions is quicker because it's out of emotion and not taking out the time to think before you react, And so that's one of the main things that I've definitely tried to instill in them. And then I have a thing that I talk about. I teach everybody, but I definitely try to teach them, which is the difference between decisions and choices, right? You have decisions and then you have choices. So our decisions is definite. Our choices are conditional, right? And so I'll use this as an example. If I am a married man and I say I'm going to be faithful to my wife, that's a decision. So that doesn't change. It don't matter where I go. It don't matter who I'm around. It don't matter what I'm doing. That does not change. So that's a decision. But along with that decision comes a lot of choices. And so if I'm out bowling and a young lady come over and wants to flirt with me or kind of hit on me, I have a choice to make in that situation. And that choice is, do I entertain or do I say, no, I'm good and walk away? And the way that I make that choice is by matching that choice up with my decision. Because again, my decision don't change. And so since my decision is to remain faithful to my wife, then my choice is to walk away because my choice had to align with my decision. So my choice is the conditions have changed, the people will change, the environment may change. But if I take that choice and match it with my decision, which never changes, then I always go the right way. And so that's one of the things that I teach, and I try to teach that to my kids too. Whatever you're doing in your life, you're going to have some definite decisions that you're going to have to make up your mind, the type of person that you're going to be, who you're going to be, right? And you mentioned integrity earlier, like what's your character? You know what I mean? Like I don't curse, right? And so it don't matter what happens. I don't curse. So this is one of my definites. So if I stump my toe, I might mumble. I might say, Lord, have mercy. I got to be more careful, whatever the term
Right.
that I use, but I don't curse,
Okay.
and so it just there are going to be some decisions that you make on the type of person that you are or decisions that you make, whether it's come to work or whether it comes to relationships, just there are going to be some decisions that you're going to have to make to say, I stand firm on this and it's not going to change. And then once you make that decision, then your choices should match your decision, and that decisions, those core decisions that don't change will keep you grounded in your foundation of who you are.
Okay. All right. I like that. I like that. The middle letter in the word prize, it's I. And I don't have it as, it doesn't represent a particular word. It represents the person who I'm speaking to. So whenever I do this, the I is you. And I always ask, who are you? So when I mean that specifically is when I take everything, all the titles. So when you're not a father or a husband or a best friend or an employee or anything, podcaster, leader, mentor, anything. When you are just you at your core, who are you? So I'm going to ask you that. Separate from daddiness and manhoodness and all these things, at your core, who are
Um, that's a good question. It's kind of one I haven't thought of because I always say at my core, I'm a person that loves people. Even though I'm sort of a loner, because a lot of times I'm by myself, um, I still have a heart for people. So I'm always thinking or looking at opportunities or whatever to help somebody, and it ain't necessarily got to be nobody. I don't have to know you. You know what I mean? I don't have to, you know, owe you anything. You know what I'm saying? It could be
you?
anybody. But
Right.
as I think really, and I'll have to say that even though it's is connected to people, I think that's who I am at my core. I'm just a person that like people, and I like myself because I'm, like I said, I don't mind being alone. Um, but even when I'm alone, it's like, okay, how can I be a better person? You know what I'm saying? And then as a reflection of that being a better person, how can I help the next person? You know what I'm saying? And so
Mhm.
I think that's kind of just who I am in my core. Like I like to help people, you
That's
know.
good. That's good. How old is your youngest child?
20. Just
20
made
is your
20
youngest.
last month.
Okay. I think with the men that I talk to, you can tell a lot about what a man thinks he should be by what his kids think of him. If I were able to talk to your daughter, she just turned 20. If I was able to put her aside and ask her, what kind of man is your daddy? What would she say?
Uh I think she would definitely say the caring part, sort of a little bit similar to what I said.
Mhm.
Um the caring person, especially to her, as her being my daughter and being my only daughter too. You know what I mean? So she definitely gets that part of it. But I think that's what she would say. I think that she would say, I'm a loving person, I'm a caring person. Um, I think I've been a good example of what a father should be, a good example of how she should be treated um, as far as a wife, should I say. She's seen me through two marriages. So my first marriage was to her mom, and even after our divorce and our ups and downs, through the years, she's never heard me or seen me say anything disrespectful to her mom or treat her mom disrespectfully or anything like that. Even in conversations with her, even now, in her 20s, there's been times when her and her mom don't see eye to eye. But even
Right.
in those conversations, I'm still respectful for her mom, to her mom, and about her mom, and teach her to do the same. And definitely with my second wife, they're very close. You know, I think because she was she was probably 7 or 8 when we got married. So, and for those years, I think we were married for 10 years. I think we did 10 years. We had 10 years. But those years was her more informative years because now she's growing up and she's seeing our relationship and seeing how I treated her, the same thing respectfully and all of that. So I think that um, she would say I've been a good example of love and respect to her and to her mothers. Um, and definitely a person that's been helpful and same thing. And I've taught her, and she's a reflection of that, looking out for people. Because I remember her and her mom moved to take. We're in Chicago. I live in Chicago. Her and her mom moved to Texas, and I remember her telling me, about one of her friends. She was friends with this young girl, and some other girls had started bullying her, and she stood up for her. She stood up for her and everything. And, just hearing that, and she called me and told me, yeah, that they would mess with her, and I stood up for her, and that's my friend, and, whatever. And I'm like, okay. And and this is, again, this is during the time that me and her mom had been divorced, and so to see her pick up like parts of my personality, that comes out. And I always say, especially with her, I would say our daughters, to me, our daughters, as a father, our daughters get the best part of us. You know what I mean? And so
Yep.
when just me, when I'm able to look at her and I can see me in her, like things that she do, the way she act, and I just like, It's just one of
Mhm.
those things,
Yeah.
So I think that she would say I'm a loving person, a respectful person, and a caring person. I think she would say that.
Okay. The part talking about looking at your kids and kind of seeing yourself, that definitely resonates with me. I'm a music head. Like, I'm an old soul to my core. Like, I love music. And with each of these girls that I watch grow up, I made a point. Like, days I was hanging out with them, I'm like, all right, you just playing Michael Jackson today. We're gonna play some Prince, maybe some Charlie Parker or some Miles Davis or some Coltrane. And now my kids, and I watch them. My youngest daughter is 8, and I have a 17-year-old one. My goodness, 17. And and a 13. I have a 17, a 13, and an 8. And they'll be sitting there listening to music and kind of appreciating music. And then it's not the best music yet. They still have time. But and I'm like, Dad, that's me. Like, they got that from me, my love of music. And it's always good to see yourself in your kid. So I'll see her bobbing her head to something or dancing to something. I'm like, yes, yeah. I probably wouldn't be bobbing her head to that song. But the
Right.
fact that she loves music like I do, that's
Yeah.
good. So
And I know my daughter was a big Michael Jackson fan when she was little. She had the gloves, like she was like everything Michael Jackson.
Okay.
So I don't know. She may have outgrown it. I don't know,
Mm,
but she definitely was a big Michael Jackson fan growing up.
good for her. Good for you. Well done. Good taste. Good taste. Um, I like talking to dads because I love hearing men talk about our kids. It's always a good conversation. There's a gleam in the eye when we talk about our kids and about the people we've brought into the world and raised. And you mentioned something early on, and I agree with you. I cannot comprehend having a child in this world and leaving. I
Mhm.
can't imagine. I know I'm half of a child. That's my kid, and not being there. I couldn't do it. And I've said it, and not that it's ever gonna happen, but I told my wife, if we ever get divorced, I mean, we not gonna be cool, I guess. But these kids are gonna see me a lot. Like, I don't just disappear.
Right.
I'm a father all the way through. So it astounds me. I couldn't do that. I don't know how. And obviously, it's something you have the benefit of a father who was there, and you're a father that's there. I don't get it. With that, I would like to kind of end this episode with this. If you could give advice to a man who's about to become a father, or one who is a father now and is kind of disheveled, confused, doesn't think he's doing it right, what advice would you give to a young man who now has the responsibility of raising a child? How would you lead him in the right direction?
Well, first thing I wanna address real quickly is the walking away, right? So I would be remiss if I said that I never had a point that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna bounce. When me and my daughter's mom went through our divorce, um, that one wasn't too good. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so there was a lot of back and forth and issues when it came to my daughter because when we got divorced, I said we had a house, we had cars, we had all that stuff. I was like, look, I don't care about none of that. You can have a house, you can have a car, you can have all that. The only thing I don't want you to touch is my relationship with my daughter. So, of course, since that was my only weakness, when I get to pushing the buttons, they're gonna push you where it hurts. And so we were kind of having some issues with me being able to get my daughter, have my daughter, things like that, and it was really bad. And for a brief second, I was just like, you know what, I'm tired. I'm tired of this, whatever. I can just let it go and wait till she turned 18. Um, luckily for me, because of my upbringing and because of the person that I am, I didn't allow myself to stay there. but I'm not gonna say I never had it, because I think that when life hits us, you know what I mean, we can find ourselves in a whole lot of different situations that we never thought we'd be in. But again, like I mentioned earlier, going back to those decisions, right? What's those definites? One thing for sure that's a definite is I'm always going to be a father, and I'm always going to be in my daughter's life. So when I was in that situation and I'm like, you know what, I'm tired of arguing, whatever, I can just be like, no, I'm just gonna wait till she get 18. Those decisions come back to mind. Nuh-uh, that don't align. You know what I mean? That choice doesn't align with your decision. You know what I mean? And so I didn't stay there, and I was like, nah, that's not an option. And so went on from that. So I just wanted to say, because again, life happens. Yep. And sometimes we find ourselves in situations, and unfortunately for some of our children, there are fathers who just be like, who makes that decision or who makes that choice and then do walk away, for whatever time period. I don't care if it's a week, you know what I mean? Like, it's unfortunate that you made a choice to be absent. You know what I mean? And so, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. But
I appreciate
my advice, and this is something that I tell everybody as a father and as a stepdad, definitely as a stepdad, there were two things that I told my kids, especially my sons, when I came into their lives, that would never change. Number one, you always know I love you. And number two, you always know I have your best interests at heart. So I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to, make sure that's always in your mind, that I love you and I have your best interests at heart. Now, everything else that happens, you might not like, you might not agree with, you might not appreciate, but whatever happens, you will know that I love you and I have your best interests at heart. So whatever decisions, you're trying to be the best father that you can, you make some mistakes, as we all do. Sometimes we get it wrong. Most of the time, hopefully we get it right. But as long as your child knows 100%, my dad loves me and he always has my best interests at heart. Even when he fails, he did it from a place of love. Even when he fails, he did it trying to do something that's going to be in my best interest, and I think that when you have that, it goes a lot farther than maybe even some of your actions. Again, if we do fail in trying to do something and it don't come out right, and it don't come out the way that we wanted it to, our kids can know, okay, I know dad loves me and I know he was doing his best. It didn't come out right. I don't like the, I don't like the decision, or maybe I don't like the consequence or whatever, but I know he loves me and I know he has my best interests at heart. And I think that's big, especially as step parents. I often get that question, how did you build your relationship with my sons? And I said, just on those two things, and it's a little harder as a step parent because you're not the biological parent. So that's always there. Whether they say it or not, that fact is always there.
Yep.
So they have to know, yes, I know I'm not your biological father, but you also will know that I love you and I have your best interests at heart. So no matter what, you could bank on those two things, and so that would be my advice.
That's wonderful advice, bro. That is wonderful advice. This has been a fantastic conversation. Where can these listeners and watchers find you, and how can they follow you?
Well, you can follow me two places. So one, Deals to Heal with E. James podcast. That's on YouTube, we're on Facebook, all of those places. But newly to the podcast world, since we're talking about fatherhood, I have started recording a new podcast, which is called Girl Dad Discussions, which is discussions with fathers that have daughters, and which you've been on, and we talked about raising our daughters and things like that, which we're recording. I'm recording right now, so hopefully by the time this comes out, we'll already start putting the episodes out on Fridays, because the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast come out on Wednesdays. So I want to put the Girl Dad Discussions podcast on release on Fridays. But you can watch them under the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast on YouTube. There is a playlist for the podcast, for the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast with all the episodes. But then under that same channel, there's a playlist with the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. And so, so you can go there. Also, my regular website is dealhealfulfill.org, because that is my mission, to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Outside of that, you can find me bowling somewhere. But Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. That's where you can find me everywhere. And the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is starting up, and so hopefully you'll be seeing that around too. But if you just want to watch it, it will be on the same YouTube channel as the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast.
Excellent. All that information will be in the episode notes. So feel free, in case you didn't write that down, which is cool, you'll be able to find it in the notes. Thank you very much for this conversation.
No problem. I love it.
It's always good. I love talking. I love having a conversation with a man. I love fatherhood. I love discussing it. So your knowledge, your experience is something that I know I gained something from, and I hope every man who is listening gained from. To everybody, again, fathers, happy Father's Day. I hope this day is good. I hope the day is fun. I'm going to end this episode like I always do. Some fathers won't be with their kids today. There are some dads who, through no fault of their own, or maybe through fault of their own, are not with their kids. This is a hard time. Father's Day is a time to be enwrapped in, just surrounded by your children, the people who love you. But some of us at times are not that lucky. So I want you to take the time, no matter the circumstances, no matter how bad you're feeling today, to understand that you brought some wonderful people into the world, and they may not be there with you, but they're there in spirit. Just remember that you brought somebody special into this world. Remember that. And at some point, you're going to get to see them. But don't let how bad you may feel today lead to bad decisions. Talk to somebody. Find somebody to talk to. It is my mission on this podcast to remind men that you can and you must talk to somebody. Who's your friend? Who's your boy? Somebody is going to talk to you. Somebody will listen. A friend, a colleague, a family member will understand what you're going through. So talk before you act.
Yeah.
You want to talk? Email me if you need to. I'm here. menofzealousnature@gmail.com. Hit me up, and then we'll talk, and we'll keep you on the right path, because life, we know, roller coaster, up and down, and them lows can be tough. But even when you fall in that hole, just know that you've got a friend and somebody who will help you get out if you need it. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened. Thank you to Kristen McGriff, who does my intro and my outro. The smooth voice to bring you in, the smooth voice that you're going to hear to get out. It's wonderful. Thank you, Mr. James, for listening. Thanks for being on here. This was a wonderful episode. Finally, fathers, never forget, ever forget that you are the man, you are daddy, and you're the prize. Have a good day. Enjoy.
Peace out.